Hello and welcome to another part of Shadowrun Hong Kong Extended Edition Blind Playthrough today, and will be the part number 8, and we will be again in the Heoi part of Kowloon. And the last episode we were in the new museum which was still in construction, and we had to nab some of the ancient text and some of the relics from there to be able to fulfill the requirements of our jobkeeper. So let's go and continue right away. Heoi. Your adrenaline wanes as you fly through the subway tunnels on your way back to Heoi. There isn't much left to do but pick the shards of glass off your clothes and congratulate yourself on one hell of a run. It's just too bad you couldn't keep the looted antiques. By the end, you managed to steal over 10,000 yuan worth of items for your client. A number that will hopefully be reflected in your mission pay. The damage you caused will likely set the museum's development back even further. Not enough to cripple the project, just enough to send a message. But at the end of the day, you still managed to break a lot of exhibits, displays, and even the faces of a few tomb crawlers, the presence of which had conveniently slipped Drake's mind. Surprises aside, you came out on top, and thanks to some quick thinking on Drake's part, you got the books and you got out. Objective edit. Go to the Repulse Bay Hotel to help Dr. Shen Yang blackmail the Neville Ma. And objective command meet kindly Chang's man, and another travel to Sky Tower and head to DECCON. And we got 8 points in karma. So first thing first. Let's get some level up. Okay, I will go with this, just in case. And the next one will be this one. Okay, so we need to claim our payment, and this should be again the first thing what to do. Let's check the inventory. We have shipping manifest. I think you can sell this one on Shadowrun BBS. And here we have a level up for everybody. So let's go melee or ranged. If I have better speed, it's probably better to go with melee. Hmm. Okay, let's go with melee. Definitely going to go away. This one is much better. Let's use this. I have augment target enough with my character. I think this one is much better. Are you sure that you want to confirm these selections? This action cannot be undone. Confirm. Okay. Oh, anyway. We have a few more skills. Okay. So let's go pick up the money from the mission computer. Your workstation and mission computer. The cool blue tones of the workstation main menu fill the screen. A blinking message in the upper right corner notifies you that you have 2 unread messages. Check your inbox for new messages. Urgent task. From Kindly Cheng to Mamu. Subject: urgent task. Little birds have been whispering in my ear about an urgent and high-paying run. Steel Arm Lu, a Red Bull, managed to get his hands on information concerning a prototype laser weapon in development by RS Asia Holdings. For years, the Yellow Lotus and the Red Dragon have been locked in a Cold War. Despite this, we remain evenly matched. Neither one of us can attack the other without being exposed to devastating reprisals. Lu wants to change this, and he has a plan. Rather than strike directly, Lu intends to aim external forces and the Red Dragon specifically. Knight errant, he intends to frame a white paper fan named Golden Fong, making it appear that the Red Dragon had been bribing RS researchers for classified data. 2 leading drone and energy weapons researchers have recently transferred from London to Hong Kong and are running the project. Doctors Taylor and Hardingham were respected in Europe, but in Hong Kong they remain unknown quantities. They're untrusted and therefore are considered untrustworthy. Perfect targets, in other words. We will provide data that will make it look as if the researchers were contacted by Golden Fong and made quite a bit of money, but grew tired of the arrangement. Transfer the attached files to a data chip. The files are bundled with a worm program which will auto-execute when inserted into the appropriate systems. You need not bring a decker, though one may be helpful. You will need to plant data in the visitor record system, the camera systems, and Hardingham and Taylor's lab. Financial data is to be transferred to Dr. Taylor's personal terminal. That in and of itself will not be enough to ensure knight-errant involvement, however. Planting the data is only the first task of your task. This is where a heavier touch will be required. You will also need to steal a prototype laser weapon. There is a GPS tracking device attached to it, which Lou will plant deep in the Red Dragon territory. The apparent theft of a prototype weapon by a disgruntled Triad member should convince RS to dispatch overwhelming force against the Red Dragon, dealing them a vicious blow. As a note, Lou does not care what becomes of the laser weapon. If you wish to sell it or keep it, feel free. I have also attached a map of your extraction route from the building. During the facility's expansion in 2052, RS Asia was forced to extend their foundation deeper into the island. They drove piles through the former site of Central MTR Station, which partially collapsed during the Dalu Bay earthquake of 2044. Practically, this means that you can exit through the basement directly onto the new MTR line through Central. With any luck, you can be gone without anyone knowing how. Unfortunately, this route is heavily alarmed, so you will be forced to go in the front door. If you can confront the front desk, you should have no problems. The facility is both an office and a residence, so strange people coming and going at odd hours is not unusual. If you're not up to fast talk, however, be prepared to shoot your way in. Lou does not care if you are loud or quiet, but a word of caution. He came by all this information via the loose lips of one of the research team. Other fixers know of this job. Move fast and you are guaranteed success. But there are definitely other Shadowrunners with an eye on your prize. Take the run. From Kindly Cheng to Mamu. Subject Re-Argent Task. Very well, Steel Arm Lou sends his regards and bids you good fortune and plentiful ammunition. The dramatic get. Don't die, Mamu. Our arrangement has been very profitable so far, and I would hate to lose that. You have one unread messages. Restaurant job. From Kindly Cheng to Mamu. Restaurant job. One of the things I've learned over the years is that even the rich and powerful have annoyances, thorns in their side, if you will. No one is without troubles, the rich just have different ways of solving them. The client for this run has grown tired of one particular thorn in his side. Chung Sing Rooster Low. Low is a red pole for one of the smaller triads here in Hong Kong. The 289s or the Easy Money Gang, if you prefer. Despite the 289's small stature, Low's illegal activities have managed to damage the client's profits. Mr. Johnson would like you to help him show Low the error of his ways. Low takes an evening every few months to dine at the Shangri-La restaurant in Aberdeen. If you aren't aware, the Shangri-La is an elite establishment serving primarily corporate clientele from Wuxing Incorporated. Because of this, it is not unusual for diners to bring bodyguards or assistant with them. In Low's case, he brings a particularly British enforcer known as the Talon, and undoubtedly feels well protected. You are going to prove just how wrong he is in this regard. You are to kidnap Rooster Low. So long as he is still alive and in relatively good health, all options are on the table. While keeping the rank quiet would make things easier for Mr. Johnson, no one will shed too many tears over a few that tried thugs. The client has arranged an exit via boat, so long as you can get Low from the interior to the restaurant's dock, the client will handle everything else. Despite being a red pole, Low is a tactician, not a fighter. Don't expect him to punch up much of a fight. The Talon, on the other hand, is as nasty as they come. Be careful about how you confront him, or things may go very badly. Take the run. From Kindly Cheng to Mamu. Subject: restaurant job. I will let the client know you accepted the job. By the time you arrive at the Shangri-La, the boat to get you out will be waiting. You have 0 unread messages. Go back and open the jobs directory. Claim payment for the museum run. You submit the job as finished and await the response. A few moments later, a message pops onto the screen. Receipt 1900 New Yen. From Mr. Drake to Mamu. Well done. You went above and beyond what I asked and liberated some truly precious artifacts. I attached the payment you owned, plus a little bonus. I trust that you'll keep quiet about what exactly was liberated from Liu's little museum. I'll come collect the books from Kindly Cheng shortly. Mr. Drake. Review notes on completed jobs. Okay. Back to route, so it's the same what he just told me. Access the Shadowrun BBS. Shadowrun connection established successfully. Link strength 100%, spoofing 1. Group info, null anon. Welcome to Shadowland. Post-pay data for sale. Attach data to escrow account. Data will be automatically sold to the highest bidder. Both parties will remain anonymous throughout transaction. Post the museum Shibike manifest. Posting successful. Posting will remain active for 2 days. Back to Shadowland. Search BBS for relevant keywords. Wow, a lot. Okay, topics matching local keywords. Typhoon warning. This newscast is just aired. If anyone wants to watch real-time isobar data or Earthsat images of the storm, the basic service payable on Skywatcher imagery is easily circumvented. Wiped Prism. Newscaster. The Imperial Japanese Meteorological Agency today issued an advanced typhoon warning for the northern Philippines and the coast of the Guangdong Confederation as tropical storm Usagi has grown into full-strength typhoon, Category 3 in the Pacific. Typhoon Usagi has formed late in the year for such a powerful storm. Meteorologists credit this growing trend of awakened cold season typhoons to global warming and powerful magical vortices in the eastern Pacific, which appears to help dive most moist air convective over cooler ocean waters. The newscaster looks down at her notes. According to the official release by Lance in Rocky of the IJMA, Usagi is now identified as an awakened storm. We have observed strong lightning activity, electromagnetic anomalies, and extreme concentration of awakened seabirds along its edges. Awakened storm exhibit anomalous physical and magical behavior. Many experts believe they show reactive intelligence and possible even self-awareness and will resist making landfall to prolong their lives, even holding position against prevailing winds. Study of these storms is inhibited by their extreme environmental condition and astral turbulence. In physical strength, Usagi may peak as violent typhoon, Category 5 on the Eastern Pacific scale, but will weaken constantly before making landfall. Although Marinal Roar is replete with tales of malicious storm, scientists have detected no provable animosity towards metahumans in the behavior of these miracles of natures. Learn more on Wildstorms of the Pacific. This week's episode of Savage Nature will host Bertrand Madonica. The Guangdong coast will likely have a long precursor battering with drenching rains but moderate winds as Usagi stalls offshore. Usagi is one of the most powerful storms of the season, but is not unusual. Usagi does not have super typhoon potential. This is gonna be perfect. A long soft hit by Usagi. Lots of electromagnetic interference. Security and cops all tied up. It's running season. Blood Meridian. I hope everyone's ready for a high operational tempo. Our fixers already scrambling for crews. Speculous. I heard storms. Hedge. No more burst in this threat. Threat versus Max. Come one, come all, and welcome to what could very well be last Shadowrun Poetry Slam, Matrix Bard. There's something kind of sad about that end of an era, Jivebird. In honor of Jivebird, I created an expert system that writes haikus. It takes whatever's being said in a thread and turns it into a poem. Mind if I fire it up? Snozbird. Snozzy, you shouldn't have. Jivebird. What kind of poetry slam includes bots? This is lame. No, you meant. Homage to Jivebird, the program stirs, churns out the text. 3 lines mar the pay. 3 lines mar the piece. Jivebot. Haha, that's brilliant. Now I can hang up my quill. Jivebird. I really don't buy that a bot can produce poetry like a living, breathing, feeling human being. Sorry, Tennyson. This is bullshit. Know you're mad. Despair grips the poets, a machine crafting haikus. The Jivebot breaks free. Jivebot. Snozbird. Was that supposed to happen? Matrix Bard. The slam is now slammed. This program has broken loose. Pandemonium. Jivebot. Well, look on the bright side. How much damage can a runaway poetry bot do anyway? Jivebird. You fucking people. Size up. Seize up. No more post and this threat. The hunt continues. A short clip of a thread news broadcast begins playing. And despite their efforts, no one has yet to come forward. The government of Henan has denied all connection with the terrorist fugitives, even doing so far as to state that the White Star organization no longer exists. There has still been no word from the HKPF on the whereabouts of the fugitive terrorists. The mood on the streets is nervous. There is no telling when or where these terrorists will strike. For now, the Special Duties Unit of the HKPF remains on active alert, ready to respond at a moment's notice. This is Sunny Chang with Horizon News, signing off. What a load of crap. Oh, how are they gonna convince us a bunch of crazy terrorists got into the FAEZ and just disappeared under their noses, huh? This would never happen if Lone Star was the sole police force here. Kobatar. Sure, because heavily armed terrorists never sneak into Lone Star cities like Chicago and Seattle, only to disappear and remain free to roam the streets after they engage in public gun battles. Even heaven shot. There's no way Henan is connected to these people. If they really were White Star, they'd have struck already. Their entire modus operandi is suicide bombing and civilian casualties. If those people are hiding, they're probably on the wrong side of a setup. Liu V20. Sure, because everybody in the shadows is just some bleeding heart fighting the megas because they believe in freedom. Grow the hell up. Dongjiang. No more post in this threat. Looking for tailors for special job. Searching for a tailor for some unusual custom work. Red Star 123. I might know a guy. Is this for armor? Scorpion. Not exactly. It's a surprise birthday gift for a friend. A friend's drone, actually. Red Star 123. What exactly do you want a tailor to make for a drone, Scorpion? A cat costume with soft little ears and paws. A rat star 123. Or better yet, a bear suit. Rat star 123. Oh, or a red samurai outfit. I even have a reference that I can provide. Rat star 123. Oh, okay, you got a fat stack of new yen. This is going to cost, Scorpion. I'll find the new yen. Can you help me? This will be so worth it. Red star 123. Yeah, I'll hack you up, Scorpion. No more posting this threat. Can't get a flight to Seattle. Hey, I got a problem. I'm hoping one of you can help with. I came out of the FEZ 2 weeks ago for work. Now that the job is wrapped, I've been trying to get an under-the-table flight to Seattle for the past week. Off the books, no passport control, that kind of thing. Nobody's making the trip. What gives? Hang fire. Check the newsfeed, man. Haven't you heard? The Seattle is on lockdown. Nothing coming into or out of the city without a thorough search for at least another week. They caught some smugglers trying to move some really nasty stuff in through a covered landing at the Discovery Park. That seems like a bit of an overreaction. Tons of awful stuff moves through Seattle every day. What's so different about this time? Hang fire. Not like this. You didn't hear it from me, but I have some friend with ICE. They say whatever it was, it's sort of the radiological alarms of the Coast Guard ship that was sweeping the area. We're talking fissionable material here, enriched and ready to go in a bomb. Under watch. No way, I don't buy that for a second. More likely some corp had an accident with one of their ships and dumped some radiological material. They just don't want to admit it. So City Hall is covering their asses. Phaedra. Don't dismiss the news so lightly. The smugglers were carrying cargo for winter night. It's only pure luck the cargo was intercepted at all. Other rail. Who the hell is Winter Night? Sounds like a goblin rock band. D-Ray. Not who, what. All we need to know is this. Winter Night is bad news. You cross them, they destroy your life. You ever run into any of them on a job? I suggest a solution that comes in 7.62 millimeters. Other real. No more posting this threat. New Pinoy in HK. Hi there, just arrived in HK from CFS and want to meet other runners from the Philippines. Salamat po. Quezon City Blues. Anyone? Quezon City Blues. I make really good pancit. Quezon City Blues. Well, why didn't you say so right away? Kumusta po kayo? Lots of former Hook families here. Beaches. Welcome. Princess Reyes. Hi, Tagasanka. Me from Manila. I'm a decker. You? Talaga. QC here. I'm a decker too. Quezon City Blues. Pancit is fine and good, but can you also make dinuguan? PM me if you can. Makati Mike. Kumusta? Tita, darling. Nice to meet you, QC Blues. Sammy boy. Hi there, Street Mage here. Might know some Pinoy runners looking for a new decker. Happy days. Welcome. Happy days. Smiley, Quezon City Blues. No more posting this threat. Okay. That's everything for now. Go back. Walk away. So, objective added, go to Shangri-La and kidnap Roster Low and go to the Eros Asia Holdings facility to plant the data. First thing first. Let's take a nap and then talk to the guys at the ship. Let's check the stash first though. This should be fine. Objective complete. Get some rest. You wake with a start. Once again, you're tangled in your sheets, drenched in sweat. Your throat feels like it's on fire. You can't remember what your dreams were about, not precisely, but again you feel that yearning sensation, the emptiness in your gut and in your chest. Your head throbbing, you heave yourself out of bed. That's it. So let's talk to the Russian guy and to the goal. The cabin is in a far better state than it was previously. The heat has been adjusted down and the ventilation restored. The boxes of junk and parts have been stacked and neatly arranged, and Gaichu's small amount of personal gear is tucked away in a corner. There is a small mat in the center of the cabin that looks like it doubles as both a rock and a sleeping pad. Gaichu is seated in the lotus position, eyes closed, his fingertips rest on a braille reader that is plugged into his PDA. The device fills the room with a soft clicking from the pin combinations. As you approach, he lifts his hands from the reader's surface. Hello again, Memo. Is there something I can assist you with? Checking your email. Reading a book, actually. The pin presses up from the reader as syllable of characters scrolling from cell to cell on the surface. It takes some practice, but once you get the knack down, it is simple. I suppose I have the book read to me, but I prefer reading it this way. Now, what is that you wish to discuss? Any thoughts about that last run? A curious affair. I wish we had more time to study the nature of the mummies we found in the catacombs, as I am unaware of any spirit or paranormal phenomenon which could explain their existence. Bound spirits? A strain of HMHVV? Perhaps something else entirely. Their nature is unclear to me. I should very much like to know how the mummy's trinket came to be. It may well be that we have discovered a new form of immortality or manner of spiritual being. To store one's essence in an object, what a concept. Such an opportunity is one that should be studied in depth. Is there anything else I can do for you? What were you reading? Gaichu draws himself up, folding his palms in his lap with one toe, though he pushes the braille reader anyway. It is called Hagakure, Hidden Leaves, written by Yamamoto Tsunetomo, as a treatise on what it means to be samurai and how one should best serve one's lord. Required reading for the Red Samurai, unsurprisingly. Etiquette academic. Wasn't the forbidden from killing himself when his lord died? Gaichu blinks, obviously surprised. A wide grin spreads across his face. You know of him then? Yes, that is Tsunetomo. He was eager to die and show his loyalty, but Lord Mitsushige had always found the custom to be wasteful. The author has a central thesis: when there is a question of life or death, always choose death. Throw oneself into the fray with no resignations and act on instincts alone. My current state of affairs speaks the truth of this more robustly than any lesson in a dojo. What is the rest of the book about? Gaichu ticks off the points by unfurling successive fingers. It is partly a manual for proper behavior toward one's lord, part a rumination on the mindset required to be victorious in combat, and partly a collection of stories. Tsunetomo believed that to truly embody the virtues of a samurai, adherents should be mindful of their path at all times, never stop training, always question how one's actions reflect on their lord. Above all, to be prepared to do your duty instinctively at any time, no matter what the cost. Academic. If I recall correctly, the author was a bureaucrat who never fought anyone. Gaichu's lip curl into a slight scowl, but he nods in agreement. That is true. Tsunetomo never fought anyone, and some have criticized him for trying to speak of being a warrior without ever lifting a sword. But I believe that he has many things of value to say. He cared a great deal about the deeper meaning of being a samurai. If lived experience is the only path to truth, then all philosophers are fools. I would tend to agree with that, actually. Barking out a sharp, solitary laugh, Gaichu smiles. If that is your attitude, then I fear there is precious little I can do to change your mind on the subject. What does he say about masterless samurai like you? 7 times down, 8 times up. Gaichu smiles thinly, rapping a claw on the hilt of his sword. More specifically, if a samurai has not been a ronin at least 7 times, then he has not truly lived as a samurai. Those were different times, however. It was common for samurai to fall out of favor with their lord and be turned loose to wander. For company-men like myself, the choice is to serve or die. Is there anything else you would like to discuss? I want to know more about what it's like to be a ghoul. Gaichu cocks his head at you, his milky eyes narrowing mirthfully. Preparing for the eventuality of killing me and collecting the bounty? Make sure you leave my face intact. I would prefer to be a well-preserved trophy. Don't worry, I'll have it stuffed and mounted on my wall. Gaichu bears his teeth in a rictus grin. You can hear a faint chuckle numble in the back of his throat. No, that would be an illustrious end to my career, a severed head decorating a leaking wreck of a boat, home to extremely private individuals who will never show me off. Couldn't you sell it to a museum or something of that sort? Gaichu grows serious, leaning back. If you wish to know about what it is like to be me, ask away. I see no reason to conceal the detail of my condition. Most ghouls smells like rotting meat, why don't you? Diet and cleaning less. Most ghouls eat rotting flesh and do not bathe. I eat fresh meat and bathe regularly. Are you immortal? Considering this, Gaichu leans over onto one elbow. I have no idea. I do not believe there have been any organized studies of ghoul longevity. Most strains of the human metahuman vampiric virus impact a semblance of extended life, but I do not believe that the Krieger strain is one. Somehow, I think it is more likely that I will die in combat than of old age, no matter how long I live. It might be interesting to ask a doctor. To what end? I live by the sword, and I will die by it. I have no illusions about my chances of growing old. Gaichu shakes his head in dismissal. How would I live out of my days? In a rural country village, eating people who happened to expire on nearby roads? That will not be my fate. So, you eat people. What's that like? Gaichu blinks a few times and cocks his head as if to stare at the ceiling. What is it like to eat anything else? Or for a diabetic to take insulin? It is like that, a fact of life. I have found that most people are revolted by the concept of eating the flesh of humans rather than the act itself. Taken in isolation of social concerns, humans are no more or less edible than most mammals. The flesh can be of poor or high quality, depending on all the factors you would expect: diet, lifestyle, etc. I prefer to prepare my meals as I would sashimi, light garnish and flavoring, but with an emphasis on the taste of the base meat. Do I enjoy it? No, not especially. Some Japanese are fond of pork and chicken sashimi, but I have never been one of them. Gaichu shrugs helplessly. But it is a fact that I must accept, and if it is how things will be, I will make the best of it. Do you feel bad about having to eat people? No, but I was never a vegetarian, so why should I? Gaichu seems puzzled by the question, as if he is missing nuances of meaning. It does not matter where the meat comes from. Someone who died in a car accident is as viable as someone I kill. I admit I have eaten people that I have killed, but that was of necessity. I was going to kill them anyway. Why let their bodies go to waste? What's the deal with your teeth? What deal are you referring to? Did you file them down with those points? No, they are actually new teeth, created by the infection. I suppose it is a natural advantage to have teeth better suited for carnivorous pursuits. Let's talk about something else. As you wish, what is on your mind? We were talking about your father bailing you out of jail. Ah, yes, I do recall you asking me about that. Gaichu's reticence is palpable, and the long silence that follows. He does not continue. You said that if I came back later, you'd tell me what happened. Gaichu sanks heavily, nodding. I have given you my word, and I intend to keep it. Do not be concerned. I simply have not spoken of my family in a long time. Bad memories? No, quite good ones actually. I haven't seen Yasujiro in many years, but that is my fault. We may not have seen eye to eye when I was young, but we came to an understanding. Eventually. Yasujiro gave me an ultimatum after my run-in with Xiawei's security. He told me that he had cut a backroom deal with a rival and Xiawei's to keep me out of prison. The charges would be suspended if I finished high school and studied at Kyoto University with the intent of joining Renraku. If I did not, Xiawei's would take me into custody and I would spend time in prison. What did that cost him? I have no idea. He refused to reveal what he had been forced to do in exchange, but I cannot imagine it was cheap. Insider information, perhaps? A deliberately botched contract? Yasujiro was a manager in the water and power division, so the deal would have been lucrative but not secret. I had always taken my family for granted. Raised in a Renraku family going to Renraku schools, I always had a sense of place, of belonging. Where I was the thought of all of that vanishing, I simply could not imagine it. Suddenly, the reality of my actions became clear. Gaichu runs his fingers over his bald scalp, smiling distantly. From then on, I tried to be the son he wanted, and he seemed glad of it. We grew much closer over the next few years. He took time off to visit me when I was living in Kyoto. Why would that be unusual? He was a very busy man in those days, a lot of responsibility and very little time for himself. I was impressed that he could carve off as much time as he did, just go camping with his son. Camping doesn't seem like a very Japanese pastime. It is more popular than you would think. There is less open physical space in Japan than in North American nations, but most of Japan is still undeveloped. The steep mountains and valley make construction outside of the flatlands prohibitively expensive, and the area around Kyoto is protected from development. We made several trips to the area between Kyoto and Nara, around the village of Ide. We camped in the mountains about it. We would hunt wild deer and boar there, using my family's antique arquebus. That's a strange choice of weapon. It is a choice of expediency. It is nearly impossible for a private citizen to own a firearm in Japan, which is why you may so often read of Yakuza attacks involving sword and cleavers, as the Tanagashima that my family owns is from the 18th century. It is exempt from ordinary regulations. Gaichu chuckles softly to himself. Perhaps ironically, hunting with my fathers is how I learned to prepare raw meat. Strange to think that such activities served as a training for my current state of affairs. So, what's the process? How do you prepare it? Soak the meat in brine water and simmer it at a low heat for several hours. Let it cool and repeat the process over several days. It cannot get too hot or I am unable to eat it. This process brings out the collagen in the meat. When it is done, I spice it with ginger and sansho pepper. Again, not too much. Mundane food is anathema to me. Sighing happily, Gaichu stares off into the distance. When he looks back, he smiles broadly at you. Those were good days. I am sorry I cannot go back to those times. When one joins the Red Samurai, one must give up all attachment of one's previous life. The company, the code, and the unit become the entirety of your world. Even your family ties have to be cut? Especially those. Anything that could distract you from a mission must be purged. Commitment to the unit and the company must be total. Applicants must be human, Japanese, and utterly devoted to Renraku. Your unit becomes your family. Your commander is your father and mother. Your teammates are siblings. Red Samurai are not allowed to reveal our identities and position to anyone outside the Special Operations Group. Even if we wanted friends outside the unit, we could not have them. So how did you end up joining the Renraku military? A fair question. Given my youthful indiscretions, Gaichu leans back, his blind eyes turned toward the ceiling. Are you familiar with the Kempeitai? Academic. Aren't they the Japanese political police? Yes, much like the commissars of the Soviet Union, they are responsible for enforcing political and social orthodoxy. Not only concerned with the army, the Kempeitai also enforce certain laws with regards to the general populace. It's my understanding that they're a Gestapo. That is not entirely accurate, but it is more correct than not. It is an organization with little oversight, broad powers, and simple recruitment methods. As such, power tends to get the better of most members. When I was enrolled at Kyoto University, I studied global security and political science. It is the major generally used as a gateway to private security postings with both government and corporate militaries. I knew I wanted to fight. I was a young man and my blood was always up. One of the requirements was that students join the Youth Brigade Kempeitai. The Youth Brigade is a bit like the ROTC in North America, the Young Falcons in the Sioux Nation, or the District Officer Program in the Republic of Korea. Members learn to be soldiers without actually joining the army. They perform community service and promote civic Right. Performance and prestige in the campaign I use to dictate the later job opportunities, a bit like a good internship. You have to be a good fascist to get a good job. That is an indelicate way to put it, but yes, I believe the purpose of the Youth Brigade is to teach students to glorify the state over the self. We did as we were told. Such is the weight of authority on the young. Gaichu shrugs indifferently. Do you regret getting involved with the Youth Brigade? Gaichu cocks his head quizzically. No, why? It was a necessary step in my plans for my future, even if some of the behaviors that we were involved in were distasteful. The state of the nation was such that those kinds of behaviors were legal and condoned. I think I read about some Germans who tried to use the defense once. I believe I have read that story as well, but I think you misapplied the lesson. In Nuremberg, those on trial had perpetrated the crimes against other nations. The Youth Brigade act only internally to Japan. When I was nearing graduation, I was approached by a recruiter with Renraku security. She told me I came from a good family and could have a promising career with the company. She offered to fast-track my application toward a potential Red Samurai position, 3 years with the Renraku military as a junior officer, and guaranteed placement in a Red Samurai training billet of my choosing. The pay was good, and the excitement of being an elite was an attractive proposition. I accepted, but I did not truly understand what I was signing up for. As I told you before, they forced you to give up everything except the company and unit. That was made clear to me, but I did not truly understand it. Did you regret your decision? On the whole, no. I do not know who I would have been had I not joined. Perhaps there's the thing that I miss, but regret is perpetual. One is always tempted to ask, what if, but there is a trap. Gaichu rubs 2 knuckles on his breastplate. This is who I became. The armor was my protection and my identity. The training was extremely difficult, but both mentally and physically I knew that I would be isolated from my old life, but I did not anticipate the full extent of that isolation. All Red Samurai recruits report to a facility called the Forge in Chiba. You are assigned a unit, you and 4 other recruits, and for the next 2 years the Forge will be your home and prison. Shaking his head wistfully, Gaichu snorts. It seems ridiculous in retrospect. We were all so young. None of us had any idea that we were doing except trying to become the best soldiers in the world. And yet those strangers became my new family, in the absence of the old. Tell me about the members of your unit. Gaichu wrinkles his nose as if smelling something foul. That chapter of my life is over and done with, and they are no longer part of my world. Why would you care about any of that? If they're still hunting you, I need to know more about them. He stares at you for a long, silent moment. Finally, he grunts. Very well, that is a fair point. Gaichu looks down at his hand, picking something out from beneath one claw. He continues to look at his hands while he speaks. When I was younger, I would have more readily cut off my fingers than tell you what you ask. You must understand that secrecy is absolute among the Red Samurai. Your identity becomes secret, erased from any database that might connect you to the Red Samurai. You use only your code name when in the field, and your given name is only known to your commanders and your unit. Even other Red Samurai units have no idea who you really are. Finally, looking up from his hands, Gaichu leans back against the boxes. Contact with the outside world is cut off completely. Even once training is over, your communications are restricted. Maintaining a relationship outside of those you work with is frowned upon. Why do they do that? It forces new recruits to bond more lightly than in any other military unit. Every emotion a recruit has for their old friends and family is transferred to the unit. In a very real way, you are required to love your teammates. Ishida was our commander. He came from a rich family in Saitama. The kind of family where he was given every advantage possible, with the expectation that he would keep the family name prestigious. He was older than the rest of us, as he'd already spent 6 years in the army. A very severe man, rarely given to humor. Takagawa was usually the second in command as our designated marksman. He tended to have a better tactical view of how an operation should be run, simply because he needed to study the terrain more. He loved to get us laughing. Without him, I think I would have gone crazy in the first few months. Our mage's name was Sasaki. She had been in training as a Miko, an apprentice priestess. When her magic began to manifest, she was in the unit for the challenge and for the money. Her family had always been poor, and they had always told her she would never amount to anything. I think she had joined the Red Samurai just to prove to them that she could do anything she wanted. Sounds like she may have been overcompensating. If she was, it was for the good of the team. I have never met anyone so focused on their goals or so certain that they would achieve them. She was a remarkable woman. Our heavy gunner's name was Aomori. He kept the team honest with itself. He never had a disparaging word for anyone, but would not hesitate to call someone out of their behavior. Sasaki loved it about him. Really, she loved all of him. The two were discreet, but discretion only goes so far in such a small team. Still, we respected their privacy where possible. Is that kind of thing allowed? If the unit commander allows it, yes. We were given incredible wide leeway in what to allow or forbid in our unit. The belief being that the results were the only thing that mattered. If the unit failed, it would fail as a whole. Sasaki and Aomori were crazy about each other, and it would have done more harm to keep them apart. Lastly, there was me. I was the close quarters and breaching expert, the first man in the door when we had to clear a room. It was the perfectionist on the team. Aomori could get us to do anything, but I was the one who made certain we did it well with style. What, you made them practice harder or something? If a thing is worth doing, it is worth doing well. If the thing is also your duty, it is worth doing perfectly. Many times we would perform a drill or exercise well enough, but that was not good enough if I had to trust my life to it. That was why we became one of the best teams in the organization's history. That is things to be proud of. Of course it is. Do you think I do not know that? Gaichu thinks heavily. I apologize. It is just that those feelings are still raw, sometimes. Even if I were to be cured, I could never go back. They have been disgraced, and I have done unforgivable things. I have been cast out for good. Are you sure? Maybe it's not as final as you think. Gaichu closes his eyes, sighing through his nose. When they ambushed me in Fukuoka, it was fight or die. I killed 2 of them before I escaped. I will not be returning to the unit, no matter what. He opens his eyes after a moment, shoulders slumping. It is not an easy memory to grapple with. That's fine, Gaichu. Take your time. Thank you, Mamu, but I'm sorry I cannot talk about it now, but I need to process the emotions. They are still raw. I'm tired. Come back later and we can talk more. Let's check these mementos if anything new is there. Gaichu has made no attempt to organize this box of personal effects, but it's obvious that he's been through it. The contents are still jumbled, but seem to have been unpacked and replaced. Laying it above the box this time is a small soapstone statuette and a folding paper fan. Examine the paper fan. The folding paper fan is cheaply constructed with thin paper stretched over plastic spines. It's obviously a souvenir sold to tourists for a few yuan. Unfolding the fan reveals a pleasant landscape, a Japanese city in the 19th century of earlier. Curved roofs at sunset beside a deep blue river. Two ships sail down the river, which is spanned by a long wooden bridge. In the foreground, laborers carry buckets along the shore as a man on a horseback rides in the opposite direction. In the distance, a pair of large red buildings dominate the city skyline. One large temple hall and a 5-tiered pagoda. Gaichu grunts, not turning toward you. The fan is from Senzoji Temple in Asakusa, one of the districts of Neo-Tokyo. The image is one of the less famous work by Ando Hiroshige, a woodblock printer from before the Meiji Restoration. I purchased the fan while on leave from my family training. It reminds me of how often life felt when I was younger, how the future seemed to stretch out, full of possibility, and also because I like the painting. Examine the statuette. The statuette is of a round-faced bodhisattva, its head canted slightly to one side. Its hands are pressed together in a prayer, and a tiny red bib is tied around its neck. The figure's expression is serene. It bears a slightly crooked smile, as if it knew a secret of had heard a joke. What this tiny statue with the bib? Gaichu pauses, turning an ear more fully toward you. Oh, it is a statue of Jizo, the protector of children. He is also the guardian of travelers. Statues of him are placed among almost every road in Japan. His name outside of Japan is Ksitigarba. Seems rather cute for you. It is, but this is not much so about what he does, as much as how much I enjoy his temple in Kyoto. It was one of the few refuges I had during my time living in the city. Jizo-in is a tiny place and is fairly close to the much larger and better-known sister temple of Saihoji on the western edge of Kyoto. Unlike Saihoji, however, Jizo-in is almost unknown. Gaichu smiles fondly, looking sightlessly into the distance. To get there, you have to walk through twisting residential streets past a deep green grove of bamboo. If you do not know what you are looking for, you will never find it. Most people assume the road it is on is simple at that end. I recall walking there in a light rain. I could smell the ginkgo and maple leaves in the slight breeze. I would go there and simply sit and let myself be whenever I felt the stress of school was too much for me. Inside, there are several small shrines, but the main attraction is the moss garden. You enter a very old meditation room from a small gate, you take off your shoes, you sit at the edge of the garden and feel the world outside slip from the mind like water through a sieve. Just you the breezes, the trees, and the moss. The garden was microcosm of my world, stripped bare of any confusion and bustle. Was it lonely? Lonely? Cradling his chin in one hand, Gaichu seems to ponder this. I am not sure how to answer. It was, but in a positive sense. Leave the box alone. Okay, let's get to our Russian friend. My friend, there is something that I would like to discuss with you. Something related to the RS run that you recently accepted. You may recall my story about my former colleagues, Taylor and Handingham, the ones who stole my research. They work at that facility. The auto repair circuits that they took from me still exist. They are there. I need you to bring me on the run to retrieve them. Of course, you'll be the first man on the train when we head out. Thank you, my friend. You will not regret this decision, I guarantee. The air in Rector's shop is ripe with the stench of old metalworking fluids. He turns to face you, a burning cigarette clenched between his teeth. Sorry about the smell, it's long past time to purge the coolant sump, he frowns. If I had access to the proper equipment, this would not be a problem. I could clean the fluid and reuse it, but alas, halogen treatment chambers are rather hard to come by, even in a place like Heoi. He shakes his head as if to clear it. Anyway, my friend, you didn't come here to discuss the ins and outs of shop maintenance, I'm sure. So, what does bring you here? Any thoughts about that last run? An interesting diversion. The mummies that we encountered were fascinating. That flesh reanimated by the controlling will of an astral being bound within. Of course, the notion that these creatures are genuine in reincarnation of long-dead humans is ludicrous. There is nothing innately magical about human consciousness. The soul is an antiquated concept rooted in wishful thinking. Thankfully, your deal has earned us the means to summon one of these entities. I should like to study it. Dissection would be best, but given the circumstances, I suppose that external observation will do. Good work, all the same. My notes will be the richer for it. Now, what else would you have of me? I've been thinking about what we talked about last time. Mind if I ask you a few questions? He tilts his head in acquiescence. Be my guest. I have no secrets to keep. About the drone self-repair system that you invented, how did it work? There were three distinct elements to my approach. When these elements were all working in correct prototypes that utilized the process displayed remarkable self-repair capabilities. This may be a lengthy explanation. I can skim over it if you please, or I can break it down for you if you're genuinely interested. Give me the long version. I want to know how this process of yours works. He shifts his cigarette to the corner of his mouth. Very well. The long version it is. The first element of my process was an outer skin that the drone could be wrapped in, a refinement of older biomimetic self-healing materials modeled to emulate the self-repair capabilities of living beings. Imagine a polymer composite interlaced with microtubules, capillaries, if you will. These vessels are capable of delivering bonding agents to the site of a wound as it occurs, thus healing it. I've heard of smart materials but that operate on a similar principle. They've been around for decades, haven't they? Yes, though they remained uncommon until recently. As I said, my material was a refinement on those earlier designs and was also only the first part of a system. The synergy between the three was what made the project work. The second element involved the underlying structure of the drone's architecture, the servos, gears, circuits, etc. Utilizing self-assembling materials and redundant systems, I created a subsystem by which damaged components could be fabricated and replaced by the drone itself, without any need for human interference. Alright, so you have self-healing skin and a self-replacing underlying structure. What was the third part? Finally, the system had a magical component. The corner of his mouth dips downward. I must confess a certain degree of ignorance when it comes to this portion of the project. I understand some of the theory behind it was done, but the specifics are beyond me. I'm surprised. I thought that this was your process through and through. Oh, it is. I was the one who recognized the need for a magical component, but I feel no shame in admitting that I cannot understand the specifics. I have a mind for figures and physics and the natural world. Magic works according to a different set of principles altogether. Truth to be told, it makes my head hurt. Okay, so why did you need this third component? You say that it was your idea. In layman's terms, a magical element was necessary to render the system self-perpetuating. Obviously, no purely mechanical system can repair itself indefinitely. The synthetic skin becomes more brittle with every wound that it heals, and the automated assembly components will eventually run out of materials to work with. As a rule, fighting against entropy is a losing proposition. But with magic, we can rewrite the rules, weaken the grasp of those entropic forces to the point that they are rendered negligible. Think of magic as the lubrication that keeps the gears turning. I wish that it weren't necessary, but I am also a realist, and I must confess that it is required for the system to work. And this package of systems is what your former colleagues stole from you, what you need to get back. Yes, given enough time and resources, I might be able to recreate the first two components of the system on my own. But the magical component is and will forever be completely beyond me. That is why it is so important that we recover my research and the prototype that was stolen. And we will recover them. Of that I have no doubt. What do you think that a post-human future would mean? Freedom. He takes a long drag onto his cigarette, sucking the smoke deep into his lungs. When he speaks, it erupts from his mouth in a plume. The ultimate freedom to direct our own progress and to steer ourselves as a people in whatever direction we wish. Consider, my friend, every aspect of Koshchei was tailor-made for a purpose, dreamed up, designed and built by a singular guiding intellect. Alright, keep going. Now think of the circumstances surrounding your own birth and building blocks that shaped you into the man you are today. Your mother and father exchanged fluids sloppily, no doubt, and with all the mindless abandon that such biological imperatives entail. That might have been the ugliest description of sex I've ever heard. Ugly perhaps, but accurate. Sexual intercourse is an inarticulate process, a messy delivery mechanism for genetic materials spurred on by hormones and base urges. Any attempt to guide the process on a societal level gets branded eugenics and decried as monstrous for obvious reasons. But I digress. The point I was making was that the forces that shaped you, and me, and anyone else you care to mention, were ultimately mindless ones, blind, manipulative, biological drives that led a sperm and an egg to collide, and in a roll of the dice and a dash of Mendelian genetics, and here you are. The natural processes of evolution and sexual selection guide the development of our species through trial and error. Throw a few billion darts at the wall and see what sticks. In the future that I foresee, this process will be reined in, guided by our own controlling intellects. To quote an antiquated phrase, the myth of intelligent design will become a reality. But we will be our own gods, reshaping ourselves as we see fit. Let me get this straight. You're a scientist, possibly Matt, who is literally telling me that he wants to play a god. How cliched is that? He sighs, looks around you, Memo. Everything about the world that we inhabit bears the stamp of the meta-human tampering. From the food that we eat to the homes that we live in to the air we breathe. Playing God is a meaningless term. We've been reshaping our environment since the immemorial. All that I'm advocating is a further refinement of the process. Step back for a moment and imagine a future in which we have fully integrated with machines. Really, imagine it. There will be no niche that we cannot fill. We can guide our own evolution, tailor ourselves to whatever environment we see fit, and we'll no longer be slaves to the selective processes that have dictated our development since the immemorial. Let's say that you're right. At what point do we cease being human and become something else instead? He shrugs. Whatever we choose to define ourselves in that way, humanity is an intrinsically human concept. If we decide to rebrand ourselves as a different species, that is our decision to make. I strongly suspect that nobody else would care. There are other forms of intelligent life out there, Rector. Dragons, for example. They might care. Perhaps, but for the sake of our continued development, that's a risk that I am willing to take. We cannot limit ourselves out of fear of what others might think. Koschei raises itself up on its legs, stretching so that Rector can caress its chases. The motion is alarmingly fluid, more like a living thing than a machine. Rector traces his fingertips over the drone's shell. His eyes focus on an imaginary point on the horizon. We have placed such unnecessary limitations on ourselves, my friend. It fills my heart with sorrow to know what we could be, but are not. I would see those limits stripped away, peeled back and discarded, for the betterment of all. In the future that I foresee, we will open our eyes to the possibilities that surround us. Bodies reshaped to thrive in the deep ocean and the depths of space, bodies inspired by nature or the human imagination, or both. Bodies that can be used and shed and used again, inhabited as their wearers see fit. The timely realization of such a future is what drives me forward. It is the case to which I have devoted my life, and thankfully it is inevitable. He tips his cigarette, sending ash spilling down onto the metal floor, assuming of course that we don't destroy ourselves first. There's a hard limit to the fusion of a man and a machine. Doesn't your vision of the future require us to get past that? You're speaking of the essence limit and the problems associated with essence loss. He releases a plume of smoke from the corner of his mouth. Yes, of course, it will be a problem, but as with all problems, a workaround will present itself. Of this I am certain. What workaround? Essence loss will always be a problem. To deny that would be wishful thinking. Always is a dangerous world. Dangerous word, my friend. I would encourage you to broaden your thinking. I am confident that you will reach the same conclusion on your own. For the time being, let us leave the matter at that. So, in this post-human future that you're trying to bring about, what role would a drone like Koschei play? A similar one to the role that he plays now, I imagine. He was designed for a purpose after all. That said, I can see the techniques that went into his design and fabrication having much broader ranging applications. You're pretty attached to the drone of yours, aren't you? You've even assigned it its gender. You keep calling it him. Yes, of course. Koschei is very close to me. As if on cue, the drone scuttles forward, the hardened tips of its claw screeching across the metal floor of the shop. It comes up short just in front of you, a strange mechanical chitter rising from deep within its chassis. You might accuse me of anthropomorphizing my little companion, assigning human characteristics to him where in fact there are none. Truth be told, there is much more to Koschei than meets the eye, but that is a different conversation, one best suited to be held at another time. If that's what you want. He nods. It is. I have to work to do. And I'm sure that you can find better uses for your time than listening to me prattle on. He gestures toward the hatch in the ceiling. And with that, I'm afraid that I must ask you to show yourself out. We can continue our talk at a later time. Alright, Director. We'll talk later. He turns away. Good night. Okay. So that was Rector stuff to be said. And we have a Duncan. I'm gonna exercise a bit, FH. Helps me clear my head. Come back later and we'll talk. Let's talk to Gubet first. Gubet looks up from her hot plate at the sound of your approach. A smile creases her face. She raises her eyebrows and gestures at the cabin around you. You know, the Kraken has really been shaping up over the past few days. With all of the work that we've been putting into her, she's starting to feel like a real home. Anyway, enough about the boat. She puts her hands on her hips, sending madness scurrying. Ready for your next lesson, or did you just want to chat? Any thoughts about that last run? Gubet possibly vibrates with excitement, clapping her hands together with a huge grin. That was awesome. Think about it, we broke into some rich jerk's manor house, stole his artifacts so they could go to a museum, and we fought mummies. If that's not the plot of a treat blockbuster, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what I think about that mummy's trinket. I've never had that person owe me a favor before. I'm not even sure how that works. Be careful when you use that trinket. As long as he does what we tell him to, that's pretty awesome. But if the treats taught me anything, it's that mummies are always waiting for an excuse to run around cursing everybody. So, what else did you want to chat about? I'm ready for my next lesson. Yeah? She smiles. That's good. I was hoping that you'd want to keep going with this. It's good for you, and I'm kind of enjoying it too. Gubet runs a hand through the knot ropes of the hair, a contemplative look on her face. A moment later, she turns her attention back to you. Alright, this is gonna be another long story, so I'm thinking we should take it in chunks. If you got any questions, you can ask along the way, and if you need to take a break, we can come back to it. Sounds good? However you wanna do it is fine by me. Good. So last time I told you about the event that brought an end to my illustrious career as a subcontractor. This time I'm gonna tell you about a run that I went on with my regular team. Was this where you started running with Isabel? No, this was long before Iz hit the streets as a runner. We were friends and everything, but she was still learning to deck back then. She was good for her age, but she wasn't ready for prime time. You don't know anyone from the group that I'm talking about. They're all gone now, anyway. Wait, you lost 3 other teams before you hooked up with me? Yeah, I did. Thanks for rubbing it in. The words are rueful, but her tone is soft. Sorry. Don't worry, I'm about it. I'm fine. When you run the shadows, losing people is an occupational hazard. She offers you a lopsided smile. As a Shadowrunners, we are disposable assets. It shouldn't come as a surprise when we get used up and tossed away. That's a little grim. She shrugs. Shadowrunners get killed all the time. There's no sense moping about it. Tell me about the team that you were running with. Sure. She extends a hand so that she can count off teammates on her fingers. Madness scurries down her sleeve and perches on her forearm. Our muscle was a Hawaiian Jew with poor impulse control. Big round guy with lumberjack arms and ringlets in his hair. He called himself Honu. I guess that he loved turtles. I don't know. Street names are weird. He had a tech specialist, Egret. She was tall, gawky, dyed her hair bone white. She had a drone named Arlo that followed her around like a lost puppy. She was kind of jack of all trades, but she could get the job done. Fun at parties too. Our de facto team leader was a guy named Tsui. He was a wiry troll, and you can imagine that, probably about 2% body fat, tall, all skin and bones. Walked with a hunch to make himself look smaller. He was a shaman. Fellow threat, like me. There can't be many troll red shamans out there. Not that I've met, but Tsui seemed like a really good guy. We got along fine. I actually really liked everyone on the team. They were a lot of fun to run with. How did you meet this group of yours? Through mutual friends. We actually all lived together before we decided to start running as a team. There was this floating squatters commune out in Hong Kong Bay. It's probably still out there, actually. I haven't been back in a long time, but I spent a few years living on the thing, and the rest of the team lived there with me. You lived on a raft? Yeah, basically, we called it a sinking ship. It wasn't much to look at, just a whole bunch of shipping containers and bolted together into great big floating brick. Wasn't the most comfortable place I've ever lived, but the price was right and the company was good. I'd like to hear more about the sinking ship. Let's hold off on that for a little bit, okay? I'd like to get through the rest of the story before we spend any more time on the raft. After your lesson's over, I'll tell you whatever you want to know about the commune, but for now, I'd rather not get sidetracked. Okay, I think that I've got a grasp on a team dynamic. Keep going. She nods. Alright, moving on. So, one day, Tsui brought us a job. He'd met a client in a Victoria Harbour bar, a rich Eastern Tiger exec. The guy wanted us to steal something from him. For him, a shiny object. She raises her hands. I know, it's stupid, right? But that was how the Johnson described it to us, the shiny object. That was what he wanted us to get. He never gave it any other name. Seriously, a regiment hired to steal a shiny object? Yeah, you can see how the gig would be hard for us to resist. Anyway, the client told us what to look for. He described this as a chunk of red jade about the size and shape of an ostrich egg, with a mirror-polished surface and gold wire inlays. He said that I would have paper charms hanging off of it. Phew, talismans. Taoist sorcery stuff. We weren't supposed to touch those. The client also told us about the shiny object's then owner, an old hedge wizard turned entrepreneur named Kong Xuan. Hedge wizard? She nods. He had the whole wise old sage thing going on. He had the robes, the little hat, the kind smile, oh, and the piece de resistance. A long, wispy bird. He was mean as a snake, though. Had a rep to prove it. Intel said that old man Xuan was keeping the shiny object in one of his warehouses. He had a bunch of them. He built himself a nice little empire selling magical paraphernalia through puppet vendors in the Yaomate market. Supposedly, a good fifth of the stalls in that place were on Xuan's payroll. Yeah, what kind of magical paraphernalia are we talking about? She begins counting off examples on her fingers. Pickled reagents in mason jars, hermetic scrolls and charms, relics looted from Buddhist temples, crates of old Balinese Rangda masks, and fist-sized stones from a great dragon's kidney. Xuan sold it all. How he got his hands on it in the first place is anyone's guess. Some of that stuff sounds valuable. Yeah, I'm sure that some of it was. Most of it was crap though. Fakes and forgeries to sell to gullible tourists. Sifting the good stuff from the bad would have taken time, and we weren't planning on sticking around long enough to do that. Bad enough. So, we'd cased the warehouse for a couple of nights before the run, you know. Did some recon, took some notes. From what we've seen, we were pretty sure that Xuan was keeping our payday in Wild Era at the very back of the building. Security was pretty heavy though. He was paying a local triad for protection, and he kept a lot of their boys on staff. Tsui was the one who came up with the plan. We'd split up outside and enter the warehouse into two teams. Team A would create a diversion, Team B would hit the vault while security was looking the other way. We'd grab our payday, regroup, and get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of there. Seems straightforward enough. How did it work out? Surprisingly well, up to a point. Team A, Hono and Egret, circled around to the loading dock just like we'd planned. Zoe and I waited by the service entrance. We didn't have to wait long. A couple of minutes in, we heard his ungodly crash, then another and another. As it turns out, Egret had rigged into Xuan's network of automated forklifts. She had 6 of them running amok in the loading dock, chasing down workers and crashing themselves into anything marked fragile. The next time we're on a run with a loading dock, remind me about the forklift trick. It's awesome, right? A dreamy smile spreads across the face. Egret really outdid herself. I wish that I could have been there to see it. Egret's distraction did what it was supposed to, as Zoe and I watched. Most of the triad guys at the service entrance abandoned their post and went howling off toward the loading dock. A couple guys with baseball bats stayed back, but we handled them easily enough. We slipped inside and made a beeline for the back of the warehouse, where the shiny object was supposed to be. Let me guess, something went wrong. No, actually, it was there, just like we thought it would be. The door was open and everything. The shiny object was sitting there in a teak cradle, gleaming with reflected light, just like the client had said. It had a ring of talismans hanging off of it, like a grass skirt, the paper all crinkled with age. We didn't waste any time. I reached in and grabbed the thing. It felt strange through my gloves. The jade sort of pulsed, as if it had a heartbeat. That sounds ominous. Yeah, tell me about it. I wanted to drop the thing, but it was our payday, so I slipped it into my satchel instead. I couldn't get the flap closed quickly enough. The package being secure, so and I turned to hightail it out of there. And then things went to shit. Did the shiny object do something unpredictable? No. Not the shiny object. Old man Xuan. He was standing there, right in front of us, larger than life. I'm guessing that when we heard the commotion in the loading dock, he'd come running, well, waddling to make sure that his treasure was safe. As it turns out, it wasn't, because I'd already stolen the thing. He looked displeased. He was an old man, and there were 2 of you. How much of a threat could he be? Oh, plenty. He was a mage, remember? Plus, he was pretty spry for his age. We opened up on him, but he wasn't exactly a pushover. It was pretty epic, truth to be told. Spirits were summoned, spells were discharged, the wall door seated him. The wall door sealed behind Xuan like something out of a movie. At the point, the old man leaped into Tsu's back and tried to bite his ear off. I won't bore you with the play-by-play of how the fight went down. In the end, we crushed him. Unfortunately, the fighting had caused some collateral damage. At some point during our showdown with Xuan, the control panel for the wall door must have eaten an arc of lightning or the blast of a powerball. It was a toast, and black and melted, and neither of us could fix it. So you were trapped in the vault? Yeah, that's about the size of it, and it was only a matter of time before the old man's remaining security guys found us in there. There was still one way out, a ventilation duct, up high in the rafters, but it was too small for Tsui to fit through. He was a troll after all. I had the shiny object, but if I left Tsui there and security got to him, well, you do the math. So, here's the conundrum. I've got our payday in my satchel, the team is split, it's inevitable that more tried 49ers are going to find us, but we don't know when or how many. Egret and Hono are holding their own in the loading dock, for now. I can stay with Sui to help off. I can stay with Tsui to help fight off the inevitable wave of tried 49ers, but will be badly outmatched. Like, badly. The odds of survival won't look good for either of us. If Egret weren't pinned down and the loading dock, she could probably get the vault door open, but in order to get it to her, I will have to leave Tsui alone in the vault. If she wants reinforcements and fight Tsui before I get back with Egret, well, she uses her thumb to draw a line across her neck. So, that's the scenario, Momo. Not a lot of work with, I know. Now tell me, what should I do? Take the gamble and go for Egret. It's the plan with the best chance of success. Could have done that, I guess. It might have worked, but of course it could have gotten Tsui gunned down in a vault too, but in retrospect that wouldn't have been a huge loss. Anyway, that wasn't what I did. I saw what I thought could be a way to save the day, so I went ahead and took it. I fished the shiny object out of my bag. I still remember how the Taoist talismans that ringed the thing crinkled in my hands. I remember shrugging, saying, "The hell with it." I put the thing in Tsui's bare hands and told him to go nuts. It was almost like Tsui had been waiting for me to pass him the thing. He seemed eager to take it. He hugged that chunk of rock to his chest like a newborn baby. Colors warmed in the stone and something changed in his eyes. Then old Mengshuan 49ers breached the door, and Tsui unleashed hell. She pauses frowning, stops scratching fully, and uses the hand to rub her eyes. Finally, she turns back at you. A sour look pinches her feature. What went down in that room? Well, I only seen that kind of carnage a couple of times in my life, and I've been running the shadows for years. Those triad men were torn to scraps by the end of it. Don't think I'll ever forget the sounds that they made. She clears her throat. I spent most of the fight huddled up in the corner for my own safety. What Tsui let loose from the stone didn't seem terribly interested in discriminating between friend and foe. What do you mean by that? Did he summon hostile spirits or something? Something like that. Truth be told, I don't know what they were. Like I said, I was hiding. But he couldn't have done it without a shiny object, not in a million years. Whatever they were, the rock brought them here. So what happened then? She shrugs. We waited for things to calm down in the world and for the things to go slithering away. I think that Tsui had some limited control over them, which is why they didn't eat us. After they were gone, Tsui gave me the shiny object back. I put it in my satchel and we bailed. We collected the others on the way out. They were blissfully ignorant of what happened on the other side of the warehouse, and I didn't see a reason to change that. We hightailed it back to the docks and caught the first boat back to the sinking ship. Mission accomplished. Gobet looks away again, stares off into space. From what I'm told, people still avoid Xiuyan's warehouse like the plague. It's supposed to be haunted even to this day. People who set foot in the building keep turning up dead. Pretty sure I'm one of the only living people who knows why. Abruptly, her body language changes. Anyway, that's it. Lesson's over. If you got any questions, go ahead. Gobet, was there a point to this story? I'm trying to find a moral here. There was when I started telling it. I thought I was gonna tell you to be comfortable with breaking the rules. I don't think I'm gonna say that now though. I'm not feeling it anymore. Why not? At least your team made it out of this run alive. They didn't say that. They didn't stay that way for long. But let's leave that for next time, huh? I don't want to get into it just now. Can you tell me more about the sinking ship? Yeah, sure. The story's over, so we can get into it. I moved onto the sinking ship when I was just a kid. I think that I was 12, maybe 13 years old at the time. In the beginning, it was just me and a couple of rat shaman friends, Cadmus and Malvina. They were older, but they were always cool to me. Is it typical for groups of rat shamans to congregate like that? Not terribly, no. I mean, we have lodges, same as any other group of shamans. You can usually find a few of us hanging out in those. I guess that there was just something special about our little group. Or maybe about the sinking ship. We liked it, we felt at home there. Didn't hear that the sinking ship was well stocked and provisioned when we found it either. And don't look at me like that, it was abandoned when we took it. Abandoned? There was a team of Shadowrunners that had lived on the thing before us, but they beat it on a job. Cat and Mal heard the knock of opportunity, and they claimed the raft for a rat in a record time. Taking over the sinking ship wasn't an easy job, mind you. The previous owners had installed traps and automated defenses all over the raft. Cat had his hands full with those for a month. What kind of traps are we talking about? She shrugs. The usual stuff. Explosive, pop turrets, that kind of thing. Cat and his sister Yasmin took care of most of it without too much trouble. The biggest problems were the scuttling charges. The runners who built the raft had installed these explosives all along the perimeter that would rip the bottom out of the thing if it were ever seized by the police. The explosives were tricky to deal with. Cat was able to disarm them, but he had to leave them where they were. It was always just slightly uncomfortable, knowing that I was sleeping on top of a couple of 100 pounds of dormant explosives. Yeah, I can't blame you there. She shrugs. Hey, like I said, it was free. There weren't really even any rules to follow, which suited me fine. Malvina was sort of the leader of our little nest, but we never really listened to her. She was always trying to play the mom card, instill a sense of responsibility into us. It was cute. She did have a propensity for getting things done, though. I have to give her that. Anyway, after a few months of other people started showing up, squatters, homeless people, shadowrunners, and assorted crazies. As long as they stayed cool with us, we were cool to them. Eventually, it became a community. Imagine that. Think you wound up squatting on the Kraken because of your time on the sinking ship? I don't know, maybe. Never really thought about it before, but yeah, maybe. The corner of her mouth curls upward. I guess that I'm a water rat now. Let's take a break and come back to this later. Of course, like I said, it's a long story. So, was there something else that you wanted to talk about? That's all for now, Gubet. Talk to you later. Yeah, hey Mamu, I'm sorry that this little one would wound up getting a little unfocused at the end. I'm not really sure what came over me. It's cool, don't worry about it. Well, I still feel bad about it, so look, I'll make you a deal. Your next lesson will definitely be on point, and I'll tell you what it's about up front. No more question and answer session. How does that sound? Fine by me, Gobet. Catch you next time. She waves. Next time. Okay. The last one to talk is Isabel. Isabel's avatar flickers onto the screen. I saw that you accept my offer. That was the right choice. We'll see. I'm ready to make our run on DECCOM whenever you are. Any thoughts about that last run? She shakes her head. Nope, sorry. Jacking into the octopus is how I relax after a long day of work. Some people go to sports bar or strip clubs. I do this as a rule. I don't spoil my leisure time with shop talk. Hey, if that's the way you feel, it is. So, if you wouldn't mind changing the subject, she lets the sentence hang. Well, I think I had all these talks with her already, but let's check it out. Nice avatar, that's a good look on you. Isn't it? I spent months customizing this avatar. She feels more real to me than my own skin. You really feel at home in the Matrix, don't you? You look happy in there. I suppose that I am. It's a comfort thing. As long as I'm jacked in, I can be wherever I want to be. Whatever I want to be. Out there in mid-space, I usually feel uncomfortable in my own skin. The avatar offers you a lopsided smile. I'd probably just live in here if I could. I've heard about deckers who tried it, never turned out well. Dehydration is the best way to go. You know, I know, and of course I was joking, but truth be told, I had to spend most of my time out there, wishing that I were back in here. You're a decker, you must know what I'm talking about, the freedom of it. It's hard to live in a cage of meat when you know how sweet it feels to leave your body behind. I gotta go, Isabel. Sure, drop by anytime. Isabel avatar flickers onto the screen. I saw that you accepted my offer. That was the right choice, you'll see. I'm ready to make our run on DeckCon whenever you are. I gotta go, Isabel. Sure, drop by anytime. Okay. That would be it here. So let's go around Heoi again. Maybe try to talk with Duncan if he has something new to say. Nope. Still exercising, or more preparing to exercise. The first thing I think is, as always, parallel of 5 phases. She changed her position. Crafty shoe. Immediately upon entering, you notice the clutter. Somehow, the small magic shop is even messier than before. Stacks and stacks of books occupy chairs, tables, and the tops of shelves. There seems to be even more than when you first visited. It's as if you just entered a paper factory, and it's spawning season. You peer around a precariously arranged tower of books and find Crafty hungrily reading one of her mother's journals. Red rings her eyes and tousled hair falls over her face. It looks like she hasn't seen the better part of a pillow in a couple days. She moves to stretch and spots you. With a quick flick of her hand, she marks her place in the journal. What a welcome sight. Have you found anything? Not too much. How about you? A slow smile spreads across her cheeks. She nods. This mind-numbing tedium is starting to pay off. Check this out. The dreams that everyone's having, they aren't really dreams. They're omens. From what I've gathered, we're walking a fine line here. They are pretty dangerous. Attempts to interpret them could lead to mixed results. What do you mean by omens? You know, omens, harbingers of doom and gloom and bad things to come. Her mouth twists to the side as she thinks. Just a minute. Crafty opens the drawer behind the counter and brings out a dictionary, clears her throat. Omen, a sign that warns of future events by way of visionary creatures or hallucinations. She closes the book with a thump. Why are they happening here? Apparently, these sorts of portents are commonly linked with malign places and disasticides. They're caused by leakage through wounds between our world and the astral plane. What's causing these wounds? Can we stop it? I am not sure we can. At least I haven't found anything about that in my mother's text yet. She lays her hands flat on the countertop and leans forward. We don't want to dive into this haphazardly memo. Remember, these omens can be dangerous. How are they dangerous? She holds up a finger and starts digging around for another text. After a moment, she locates a small notepad and flips to a dog-eared page. In here, it says these visions or dreams or whatever you want to call them are real. They're open to interpretation, but interpreting them incorrectly can be disastrous. Astral space is a place of dream logic. Taking the things you see too literally can be even more dangerous than ignoring them. That put us in a pretty creepy situation. You're telling me it's not easy to interpret a dream, and it's even more difficult to separate the nonsense from the substance. Can you interpret the dreams? Crafty plunks the notepad on top of a nearby book tower. I can't help you interpret your dreams. Whatever they're trying to impart is beyond me. All I can do is keep reading. There has to be something in this library that can help us understand what's happening. Keep it up, every bit helps. She stifles a yawn. Yep, I'm on it. Let's look at your wares. Okay, we don't have mage. And we have 2 new armors. No stat. Bonuses just bigger armor class. Can't get this. Okay. Anything else? See you soon. I'll be here. Okay, so it's time to run around the Heoi again. Okay, let's talk to Jin again. The 3 men are once again fixated on their game board. Jin rubs his hands together nervously, his face twisted in concentration. It appears that Shiuno has the upper hand. The silence of the game is deafening. Amateur players would be filling the air with clicks and clicks of the stones against the wooden playing board, relentlessly trying to outdo one another. These men are different. Shiu picks up a small black stone, his hand reaches over the board, then pauses. Jin stares at the outstretched hand. Suddenly, still, Shiu begins to lower the stone. Down, down. Jin is practically on his toes, and then Shiu pulls his hand back. Perhaps not there. He strokes his short beard thoughtfully. Jin tosses his arms into the air, nearly knocking over the playing board. Damn it, Shiu. When you start a move, you commit to it. I swear if you're doing this on purpose. Friends, Lau interrupts the players. We have a visitor. The 2 players look up. Jin sighs and holds his face in one hand, mutters something beneath his breath. Shiu's eyes fix on you. His stares unspeaking, his generous smile and playfulness from before are absent. Sorry to interrupt, I was just wondering if you're all still having the dreams. This again? Do you have anything better to do? Yes, we're all still having the dreams. Lau's voice is calm, but troubled. However, they've gotten a hell of a lot worse. Jin shifts uncomfortably. Look, let's not go into details. Anything would be great. He mulls this over. Alright, but afterward, you have to let us finish our game. Sure. He nods approvingly, then glances at Lau and Shu before continuing. Our dreams have become unpleasant, so to say, darker, violent. He runs his hand along his tightly cropped beard. Not all that healthy, if you ask me, especially for men of our age. We come out of them in a daze sometimes. Feels like we've been punched in the senses and the imagery. You can see him shiver as he thinks about it. Well, I said no details, so no details. That about sums it up, Shu. Master Lau? I have nothing more to add. Shu? Shu's eye bore into you. No, nothing. Is everything alright, Shu? You've been staring at me for a while. Shu continues to stare at you, his face pale. He opens his mouth, closes it. He seems to be struggling to find words. What's wrong with you, Shu? You'd better not be having a stroke. We're in the middle of a game. If Shu heard Jin, he doesn't show it. He looks at you, and his eyes widen. You need to go faster. His voice is urgent, pleading. The shadows that follow you are getting closer. Excuses, Memu. Our friend is tired. Lau claps a hand on Shu's shoulder, who doesn't seem to notice. These dreams have taken a toll on all of us. Please, come back some other time. Understood. Take care. Okay, so looks like one of the guys are having really heavy dreams. And the shopkeeper moved a little bit, so let's talk to reliable Matthew again. A hover drone loiters in front of Matthew, a stream of profanity spewing from its scratchy speakers. People nearby are looking away, ignoring the awkward situation. Matthew's cigarette is dead, drenched by rain. He stands with his signature nonchalance, but the edges of his face are twitching. His eyes are wide with fear. You could listen in, but you already got the gist. Matthew is being chewed out. Hang back and wait. The drone speakers finish with a shriek of feedback and clack back into its hull. The drone soars up in the sky and races off upriver. Matthew shakes himself off. His cheery demeanor surges back with striking resilience. He turns towards you, a little wild-eyed but otherwise restored to his usual self. Memu, I hardly saw you there. Come on in, don't be a stranger, beautiful. Who were you talking to through the hover drone? One of my suppliers, Quang Ha. Really good business and sharp guy, sees opportunity where most of us only see broken parts. Fun guy, makes me laugh my ass off. Kyung Ha's a funny guy, you say? Yeah, I was lagging my ass off over here. Matthew gives you a long, awkward smile. The seconds stretch out. He blinks uncomfortably. When he speaks, his words sound stilted, like he's repeating a mantra. He's a funny guy. Kyung-ha sounded unhappy. Oh, that's just Kyung-ha. He's like a paper tiger. Matthew sways back and forth on his feet, languid and jittery at the same time. He's a big joker, always shouting, but I think he's a real softy at heart. A real big heart for the little people. Keeps me well stocked. What's your business arrangement with Kyung-ha? I sell on commissions. Got to keep these butts moving. They don't earn their keep sitting out in the barge. You don't own most of these drones? Matthew's brows arch up in surprise. Of course not. How could I afford them? I'm so lucky to have a guy like Kyung-ha as a partner. Only problem is he's got me laughing in stitches so much it sometimes distracts me from sales. Matthew adjusts his suit lapels with mechanical gusto. You are the pep talker, that Kyung-ha. I feel like I could take on the world right now. Let's look at drones. This one is super expensive, but not for us. Thankfully, it's really expensive. What he offers. Again, just better armor. No stat increase, so let's go away. Like the old songs say, a droney day is a happy day. Goodbye, Matthew. Okay, nothing back here. We'll visit the parlor a little bit later. Let's check out other NPCs around. Here is an orc, but let's talk to the shopkeepers first. Shen is busily engaged in a conversation with someone on the other end of a video call. The other individual appears to be a tremendously handsome elf wearing an immaculate and undoubtedly pricey costume suit. Shen doesn't appear to notice you. I'm just saying, if the customs office give me any more crap about importing those tiger snakes, I'm going to be up a creek without paddle. The elf nods, tilting his head back with a mischievous grin. Leave it to me. I have some friends in the customs house, and between that and their shoddy record keeping, I'm certain I can get your snakes out of quarantine. It will take a day, maybe two. If it takes longer than that, it's because someone specifically doesn't like you. At long last, Shen seems to notice you. Hold on, Yank. I'll call you back. Got a customer here. Putting down the comlink, Shen bows. Hello again. What can Spider Shen do for you today? Who's the good-looking elf? He's my lawyer, Young, or lawyer, I should say, since he's another Blue Lantern and is part of the same crew. Shen lifts a thin China sword, turning it over so that the light glitters along the edge. I don't do a lot of things that are legal in the strictest sense. It helps to have a good lawyer, you know. For most Shadowrunners, getting caught is the end of their career. We'll see. There you go. If you had a good lure, that wouldn't be a problem. Shin grins. Chin tilted upward. Saves you a word of trouble, man. Most of the time, code means death for us. Shen is unmoved by this information. Well, then your lawyer can make sure your inheritance goes to the right people, eh? This one time we had to cause a big fuss and make sure it pointed at the Red Dragon Syndicate. We ran into one of their protection rackets and started causing all kinds of fuss. Breaking windows, setting fires, roughing up patrons. Young told us to wait and get arrested. Problem was, there was a vice squad that really wanted us caught and thrown in jail. We'd embarrassed them a few times already. Chen chuckles quietly. Turns out he'd used a Decker contact to make sure to swap a bunch of public recordings so that traffic cameras would conclusively show us somewhere else and arriving at the last minute. He also made sure the vice squad that arrested us was cited for failing to file the proper paperwork on a bunch of previous cases. The squad got canned, we got let go. It was a thing of beauty. Getting some new pets in? Shen frowns dourly. They're not pets, they're an investment. I can make antivenoms serums from them, or I can use them raw venom to accomplish tasks that would otherwise be too messy and loud. Wait, you're an assassin? When I'm paid to be, yes. Most of the time, no, but sometimes Grandfather Wu has a problem that needs a permanent solution. Shen produces a needle from below the boat's table, casually flicking it off to the side. Glancing over, you see that it's embedded halfway into a metal crate. I can solve those problems, and I prefer to have a wide array of tools to work with him. It's like this. Yes, I can hurt people, but I can also heal them. I learned to heal with my medicine before I learned to hurt. When you learn how the body works, you learn how to break it as well as fix it. It's like a mechanic and a car engine. If you know how to fix it, you know how to disable it. Show me what you've got. So... Ardent Phoenix. Would be nice if I was going melee. Same as before. See you later, Shan. So let's talk to the glaring god now. A diminutive female orc regards you with a sharp, challenging look. The fierceness of her expression contrasts starkly with her sweet, rounded face and neat bob. She flexes her cyber fists. She fires off a rapid-fire reproach in a thick Filipino accent. Why are you staring like that? Didn't anybody teach you manners? She plants her fist on her leather-clad hips and adjusts her chin out at you. Relax, I didn't mean to stare. She gives you an unwavering sidelong gaze. You're a stranger on my turf. I expect people to be civil one to another. No offense intended. If you insist, sure, I apologize. She blinks and her jaw unclenches. It's alright. I can tell you're a newcomer. I just feel a little protective on my part of town. The orc looks you up and down. Finally, with a gruff nod, she introduces herself. I'm Rosario Ignacio, or to the members of my community, Cherry Pink. I specialize in transport missions and nanny services, and I occasionally Shadowrun for walking around money. I can also fry up a mean bench of lumpia, but you can't have any unless I like you. Cherry Pink seems like an odd choice for a street name. She glowers at you. It's a bona fide Filipino nickname. Unless you want a full mouth to fist, you'll show it respect. You said that you're a nanny? She nods enthusiastically. Look around you. See these Shadowrunners and dealers of contraband and Johnsons? There's a fair number who have kids. No, they wouldn't shout from the rooftops. It's usually too dangerous to keep family close. That's where I come in. Interesting business model. Do you have much competition? I wish that were more. If more people did the things that I do, fewer kids would suffer. The orc raises her chin proudly. I've taught children good manners, hygiene, and the proper use of firearms for over 20 years. You were in a survival situation and you were worried about hygiene? She looks at you with pity. You never had a good nanny. I can see it in I can see it in your eyes. I can smell it too. There must be something wrong with your nose. I smell as fresh as a pine forest. She smirks. I usually nanny children, but you're a prime candidate for some remedial lessons in cleanliness. No offense. Do the lessons come with lumpia? Sign me up. She shakes her head and mutters something about Shadowrunners nowadays. I just want to make friendly conversation and people only ever want lumpia. It's shameful. No, you cannot have lumpia. You may only desire it from afar. What's happened in the Philippines that you can't go back? The Japanese Imperial State happened, supposedly. They've been in charge there for decades. I was just a little girl when they sent their Imperial Marines in. They destroyed my old neighborhood. I don't remember the events, but I still dream of fire to this day. Supposedly in charge, you say? The Japanese ran up against resistance from forces that came to be known as the GOG. Nationalists, neo-anarchists, but the resistance ultimately gets its backing from a dragon, Masaru. While the struggle continues, the country can't heal. Don't you want to join the GOG and free your country? I don't know the Philippines. I barely remember it. It's always been a poor country. After decades of struggle, is it really a better option than Heoi? Well, Heoi isn't so bad. At least the people are interesting. The orc smiles. I agree. Perhaps you may deserve lumpia after all. No promises, though. You didn't run too far. Why not leave Hong Kong? I couldn't go back to Manila because of those GIS scumbags, but there's always been a large community of Filipinos in the shadows. I saw them out. How do you get your cyberware? There's always been a large community of Filipinos in the shadows. I reached out and they all pitched in to set me up as a Shadowrunner. No, whenever I land a good gig, I give most of my earnings away, giving back to the community. Do you have ever regrets about leaving your old life behind? She looks away suddenly, her eyes moistening. I'm not sentimental about my old post. If that's what you mean. The orc takes a big breath and continues. But on Sundays, my only day off, I used to go and sit with the other nannies and housekeepers. We'd bring pieces of cardboard so we could sit on the ground in the shade on the bridges. We'd gossip, eat lumpia and rice cake. Nothing special. But I don't belong to that world anymore. I couldn't risk world getting back to my old employer. I miss my old friends though. Let's talk about something else. If you like. You say that you make great lumpia. What is that exactly? Filipino spring rolls, crispy and delicious and full of pork, or whatever pork flavored substitute is on sale. It's important to be frugal. It has suddenly become very important to me that you like me. A corner of her mouth twitches upward. She gives you a sidelong glance. Then you must earn it. Everybody wants to be on my friend. Everybody wants lumpia. Only a handful deserve it. How did you go from babysitting to running the shadows? Her cheeks flush. Well, I used to take care of the children of a whooshing bigwig up in the peak. Turned out she was siphoning corporate funds to support both a gambling addiction and an extravagant lifestyle. She got sloppy, and I stumbled across some pretty damning documents as I was tidying the house. I couldn't unsee them, much as I wished it, and I started to fear for my life. She was growing desperate, erratic, so I ran. Let's talk about something else. If you like. Okay, I should go. She nods at you. Be on your way then. Okay, nothing here. And maximum law. Yo, Mamu, welcome back to the palace. You got anything interesting to tell me today? He looks at the heap of wearable computers, PDAs and chip decks on his nearby workbench. Cause I got nothing but fixing hurt curlers and debugging old ladies' PDAs. I swear I'm gonna die of boredom. I've got some metadata for you. Yo, tell me what you've got. The network runs on information. The recent heist at the Emperor's Tomb Museum, the one under construction, had a specific target: books. Really? Indeed, they were some sort of ancient texts, probably sorcerers and awakened monsters had invaded the tomb. Whoa! Are you serious? That's nuts. Law slaps his tight for impases. Boom! More proof for my theory. The Kong is done. I give it 2 years, tops, before demons or something eat everybody. Let's see what I've got for you. Grab a program. Here's my super stack. Law grabs a nearby bin and slams it down in front of you. Check this shit out. Ah. I have absolutely no clue which one I already have. Let's take the decrypt. Okay, let's go this way. I don't need any programs. Have you got some UN? 200. I'll build this as at the expense. Wampu recognize the interesting value of information. Information is money. Boom. It's a pleasure handing meta with you, Memu. Low beams happily. A little meta is like a fresh memory defragment. It makes my whole day better. I got some metadata for you. Yo, tell me what you've got. The network runs on information. Never mind, let's talk about something else. So we need to do much more jobs to get some stuff from him. Okay, I'm here for tech. Show me what you got. Cyberdrex. Woohoo. 200. I'm still missing 130 new and to get this one. Oh, I'm so sad. No need for better armor at the moment. Programs. I see. So in the end, we spent the 200 for the level 1. On this one. And this one for now. We'll wait a little bit. Boom! Another problem solved by Law's Technology Palace. See you later, Law. You gotta go? Okay, watch your back and shoot straight and all. Law grins at you and dexterously flashes a hand sign that Shadowrunners give each other and all of it shows. I got things to do. Okay. Let's see all the other NPCs in here before taking another job. Or before going to the Mahjong parlor. This one's clear. Oh, pick up. What's there? A shamanic salve, a simple magically prepared salve that heals 4 base HP and 44 HP per round for 3 rounds, consumed when used. Okay, let's take it. And go into the Chrome Alley. Ambrose looks up from what appears to be a housework drone on the operating table. Scrub up and get me the defibrillator pedals memo. I'm installing some headers onto this guy's liver and now we're going to shock him back to life. Ambrose bursts into laughter, but seriously, hand me the loop. What can I do for today? What can I do for you? What? What can I do you for today? Have you been having dreams, Ambrose? Nightmares? Nightmares? Hell, Memo, that's my life. I curl up with a bottle of vodka and a handful of beers every night, but if you mean the toothy hunting horror dream, yeah, I've been having it. Shit, it's just one more nightmare. Ambrose drops his voice and leans forward a little in his wheelchair. Let me tell you though, I've been doing a brisk business in sleep aids. Just today, someone asked me for some ketamine. Ketamine, that stuff is a horse tranquilizer. What the hell made them think of that? Can you think of any medical reasons we'd all be having the same nightmares? Nope. Even if we were all doing something similar intensively, it shouldn't happen. Our experiences are too different. I've heard of mages and shamans who are somehow connecting to each other, sharing dreams, but that's all. Ambrose waved his hands dismissively. Hell, what do I know? I'm not a doctor, I'm just a guy who subscribes to psychological modernista. If you want to know about dreams, ask Crafty. My formal diagnosis is that something fucking weird is going on. Can I have some ketamine? Hell no! If I had a ketamine, I'd take it myself, he chuckles. But seriously, it's not something that's good to self-prescribe. You eat a bunch of ketamine, it's not going to make you feel well rested. Thanks, bros. No problem, just doing my part to tamp down the crazy. You were a Hong Kong Shadowrunner. I was. He looks down at the remnant of his body, scared and dismembered. I sure don't look much like one now. Ambrose yawns and stretches, straining his leg lump and scared arm in opposite directions. Man, that feels good. So, there's a particular way this kind of conversation goes. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Security. I presume we share useful intelligence washed of incriminating data. That's a damn fine idea. Listen, I'm circumspect about my past, and you're a new active runner, so I don't want to know any of your story. It's only a liability to me. Ambrose props himself up painfully and leans forward a little. His living eye has an intelligent gleam to it. So let's make this conversation useful. I'll cut the bullshit and give you some down low on Hong Kong from an expat runner perspective. In return, you don't dig for my job list. Deal? Sure, why not? Rock solid. Hong Kong's a good lily pad for a derby crasher like yourself, Memo. The shadows are deep, the money flows, it's friendly to foreigners, and there is no real government. The whole place is run by corporations and syndicates. However, as fresh meat of the boat, you've got to decide who you want to be. Foreign runners followed 3 career paths in the Kong. They assimilate, they burn their bridges and get out fast, or they die. If you're a short timer, you can be as violent and splashy as you want, but Evaldo arm swings over his shoulder and points emphatically at you with its claw. If you're in for the long haul, learn the local arts, discretion, restraint, respect, get that long-term face, and don't embarrass people. The Hong Kong shadow grind, The Hong Kong shadows grind through expendable runners who are loaded up with bad face and then dumped into Victoria Harbour. So, whatever you do, watch your back. So, kindly keeping us around for her untouchable work, huh? Yeah, most likely. You're not just undeniable, you're disposable, and she can hide that out. So, this isn't Seattle, this I we want to be. Ambrose shrugs, a lopsided gesture with the stump of his missing arm bound in scar tissue. The other thing to remember is that Hong Kong is a really complex place. It's one of the great global cities with enclaves of every major megacorp. It's a syndicate town, it's a refuge magnet, and it's Guangdong. At some level, anything goes here, but Ambrose takes a deep breath and continues in a tone of low appreciation. When in doubt, assume that all Kong tradition rules. I say that as a loudmouth bastard, be polite, be modest, honor favors, maintain face, give respect, and always treat people's time as valuable. Seriously, how much does that play into Shadowrunning? It might not affect whether you take a job or whether you shoot back, but it does affect the way you comport yourself. It just all depends on who you want to be and the Kong. Ambrose takes a big breath and sighs contentedly. I found a nice little piece. If you survive, maybe you can too. And you sure do seem like a survivor. People know who I am, but only in the network. Kindly runs this neighborhood like a separate country. You paddle a boat across the canal, and no one's ever heard of me, and never will. Ambrose suddenly stops himself as if he realizes what he's saying. He finishes lamentably. Anyway, it's private. You're not the wanted man, are you, Ambrose? There ain't no paper out on Ambrose Rokatansky, if that's what you're asking. I'm clean as a whistle. Well, that's my wisdom. Ambrose breaks into a chuckle. Wait, what am I saying? My wisdom is you can never be too low profile, too lawyered up, or too well armed. You're pretty banked up. Why haven't you installed some bionic limbs? Ambrose taps his temple with one of his only remaining fingers, because I'm already crammed to the gills. I don't look it, but I've got a full suit. Quad-jacks, non-soft radio skill wire, tactical computer, all bunch rig rare. He lifts his dirty t-shirt, revealing a pair of tubes emerging from his side, running down into the wheelchair. Check it out. I've got an artificial liver in my chair. I want to keep my last essence. I've become to like my humanity. I don't want to turn into one of the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead? Oh, come on, you know the names, right? The Walking Dead, Toasters, Chromeouts. I don't want to be one of those lug wrenches who cyber themselves to within an inch of their lives and stop feeling normal emotions. There are worse things than feeling nothing. Truth. I'm close to the line though. I don't want to feel nothing, at least not yet. Ambrose scratches himself ostentatiously with a robotic arm. Listen, I like talking about my crow more than the next guy, but not right now. Besides, it's kinda personal subject. You looking for something today? Show me your services. Sure thing. Tune-up or spare parts? Cyberware. More. Cyberware. Well, this one is 3. +2 armor, +1 body. Too expensive. +1 movement might be useful at some point. Oh, a lot of cyberware installs. Okay, let's go back to top. Wow. I'm really tempted to take this. +1 quickness too. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting, and this one needs 5 affinity. And this one would be 1 thing to get sooner or later. Okay, we'll be saving it for this one. It looks really good with all this, especially the +1 to movement. +1 intelligence, but really expensive for that one. I could have waited for that. We'll see. Maybe I'll exchange it at some point for the plus hit one. This one is a smaller version of the one, super expensive. And legs. +3 movement. For 1 round only. I will keep that maybe for later, because this really looks like an awesome thing. Haven't encountered any enemies with throwing grenades so far, but sooner or later it will get very useful. Come back to the garage soon. Show me your services. medical supplies. Okay, not for now. Goodbye, Ambrose. Time for me to go. Come back to the garage soon. Cheers, Memo. Talk to you later. Nothing else except the next mission, so let's talk with the Frederick again. Frederick Caffey stands stolidly by the club door, his arms folded across an impossible large chest. He eyes those entering and leaving the club like a god might look down from Olympus, and he smiles while doing so. Hey Memo, been hearing more about you. I suppose I'm doing my job right then. Don't sweat it, your secrets are safe with me, though I do wonder if what I've heard is legit. I heard you might have killed some guy, or maybe a couple dozen guys, maybe even that you're a terrorist. Not sure that one fits, but you do look like a heavy hitter. I'm a lover and a fighter. Club 88 caters to both. And you're in the right company with me. You know, they call me the untouchable. Never taken so much as a scratch. Of course, my snot brother says it's because people are afraid to hurt me, else they might lose face with our parents. As if that would ever stop some of these punks, am I right? Not a scratch. He pulls his taut a t-shirt, revealing a thick layer of form-fitting body armor below it. Of course, things that get stopped by this stuff don't count as scratches. And it handled some rough customers, have you? It's what I do. Think about it. Inside, my brother sells the kinds of things that would make a Buddhist monk turn psychotic. And then in back, my ma is selling enough firepower to blow the roof 6 times over. In other words, we sell petrol and matches, and yours truly is the firefighter. But this firefighter ain't never been burned. No, not once. Pretty impressive, right? You just let me know if you're needing some additional muscle. You can call on Mr. Untouchable to get the job done. How much do you bench press, Frederick? I don't bench press. I do dumbbell presses. They're more functional. The bench press artificially stabilizes things too much. But to answer your question, when I do bench, I max out around 700 kilograms, he grins confidently. That's double the current world bench press record for unmodified humans, by the way. Tell me more about your family. You may think I'm impressive, and sure, my brother Colum and my mom both work hard to keep this place afloat, but people don't realize things about my ba. He's not just some old sailor. You want to know the secret? He was a pirate, one of the very best, over 20 years at sea, and he was never called untouchable, just like me. You ask him about it, and he'll deny it. I'm sure he made enemies over the years. Could have played smart, keep his past a secret, but I figured out a long time ago. He's a great man, my ba. That's why I gotta be strong to live up to his example. I'll leave you be. That's all? I'm just watching the door. Nothing else to talk? Okay. So let's get inside again. Henry Caffey potters about in the back of the club like a great hulking ghost. Despite his size, he goes largely unnoticed by the club's clientele. It is as if they all have a blind spot in which he is happy to reside. Why do you insist on chatting like this? Love you too, Henry. I'm sorry, it's just unexpected, even unprecedented. Most people leave me, they don't know me, except maybe by name. They certainly don't know what I do here, so they have no cause to speak with me. Some of us prefer the anonymity. Well, I don't know that I prefer it, but I've gotten used to being the forgotten one. In this place. Ermine and Callum are the faces of our business. Freddy is the face of our law, so to speak. I'm no good unless I'm out on the water. Got any good stories for your days at sea? Stories? An old sailor always has stories. In my early years working the fishing boats, I swear, it seemed like every day we caught something in our nets stranger than the day before. Sometimes it was cargo, either lost or thrown overboard by panicking smugglers. Sometimes it was a bit of ships wrecked by those super typhoons they say the geomancers cause. We'd haul up the occasional body, figure some of them were refugees either from the mainland after the Civil War or the Philippines after that whole mess. Human trafficking, pirates, lots of bodies in these waters. But more and more we'd pull up bizarre sea creatures, not sure if they were mutants or some kind of awakened critters. The small ones we always threw back as soon as we caught them. If you don't know what something is, the best assume it sprays at it or lay eggs in your brain. The big ones, he shakes his head in disbelief. A lot of times we had to cut loose the net. Nets cost a fortune, but when the whole boat shudders and you see 3-meter spines of tentacles or something break the surface, you know it's not worth saving the net. Those were good times though, simple times. It got more complicated as I got older, and as the seas got ever more fished out, it's even more complicated now that I'm stuck on dry land. Guess the skill of a sailor don't really translate to club ownership. No, they don't. I want to be a good provider, but I just don't know how to contribute anymore. I think about my own father. He was a fisherman long before me. For 40 years he went out early in the morning and returned late at night. He put food on the table in a very literal sense. He did that without complaint every week until the day he died. That's providing. That's being a good husband and father, as far as I'm concerned. My father wouldn't have lasted a day in this life of mine. The world's just moved on from what we knew and what I knew. I miss those simple times. I'll leave you be. Did you need something from me? No, sorry to bother you. Okay. Illuminati elaborate. Someone new. Let's talk to Callum first. The elder of the two Kafai sons is once again lost in his cups. He watches bleary-eyed as patrons pass him by. Something in his expression makes it seem like that. Something in his expression makes it seem that he resents each one simply for being. You again decided to make this whole home, have you? Not much of a choice. Ha! This is something I can drink too. Sit down if you'd like, I could tell you a tale. Tell me a story. You ever hear the one about the Phantom Sailor? They say he was once a good man, provided for his family, loved his wife and children. He spent many lonely days out on the sea, working hard to make their lives better. But the ocean takes its toll. Every time he returned, he came back with a little less of himself. Until one day, the thing that came home was just a shell, the mindless body of the old seafarer, with his soul still lost at sea. The mind and body call to each other, and one day the sailor will walk down the beach and step into the waves, letting the ocean swallow him whole. True story. Tell me about this family of yours. What's to tell? My brothers is meathead, and my parents don't even know or care who I am. They say they care for family first, but to them family isn't for people under a roof. It's some abstract concept. It's the name that matters to them, the cafe name. That's family. My mother only cares about the business. Any hint that I want to look for a better opportunity is met with lectures. And as for Ba, well, he's never been the same since his life went into dry dock. First chance I get, I leave it all behind. Mark my words. I'm actually more interested in your merchandise. Okay. All the same stuff. Not for me at the moment. Let's talk to Ma first, and then to Illuminati. Ermin haggles with the dwarf over the price of a customized shotgun, sealing the deal with the offer of a size-appropriate bandolier. The dwarf leaves happy, and Ermin slots another black market credit stick into her stash. Welcome back, Memo. How can I help you? This place ever empty? Almost never. The residents of Heoi have many problems, and they come here to deal with them. People like easy solutions, and they will pay good money for them. Guns are one way, booze and drugs another. This is why we sell what we sell. My son Callum doesn't understand this. He thinks he could be happier at some corporate drone, but I've been there, and I can say for certain that it's just a longer path to where we are now. It all ends with drinking, or sometimes killing. At least we're direct about it. What's the problem with Callum? There is no problem, so long as he remembers his place is here. There are too many ideas in that boy's head, too much ambition, and ambition like that never leads to a good end. He should be happy with what we have built for him. He is the eldest and so very smart. One day he will take control of the club and all its businesses, but he feels trapped here. He wants to be free. The irony is that his idea of freedom is to work for a corporation. I know from experience there is nothing further from the truth. They don't call you wage slaves without good reason. But here we have true freedom. We make our own way. I wish he realized this. I try to make him understand, but it only seems to drive him further away. I worry that if I try too hard, I will lose him to his ambitions. So how do you end up selling guns out of here? Back when my husband worked for Wuxing, we had a little side operation, smuggling weapons right under the corporation's nose, strictly small time and barely worth the risk. But it brought in a little extra money, which we desperately needed. But Henry was never good at brokering the details. He hated that part of the business, didn't care to haggle, always leaving money on the table. We fought about it often, and one day he told me to handle it, if I cared so much, so I did. As it turned out, I was better at it, much better. I had worked in the business world before the boys were born. I knew how the things must be done, so I began to make all the deals. I secured the product, I found the buyers. In time, we didn't even need Henry to babysit the shipments. Our influence has grown strong, and now we run everything safe from their land. Let's see what you have today. Not much for me. Okay, so let's talk to the last one in here. The most immediately noticeable thing about this orc is his immaculately maintained red mohawk, and beer he is busily nursing. He fixes you with a mischievous grin as you approach, touching 2 fingers to his brow in salute. Hey there, Chief, what's cracking? Do I know you? Extending his hand, the orc shakes his head. No, but you might want to. At least if you need a shaman on your queue. Illuminati Alabrat, and your service. Haven't had a chance to get established in Hong Kong yet. Maybe you can help change that. How do you know I'm Shadowrunner? Are you kidding me? Everybody around here knows about you. I guess they don't get a lot of foreigners who move in and immediately start cozying up to the local yellow lotus straw sandal. The rest of us have to show up here and hope somebody needs a hired gun. What kind of shaman are you, Kill? The kind with a shotgun and penchant for bad luck. He lets out a roaring laugh and slaps a hand against his leg. Oh, I kill myself. Seriously though, God guides me. What's Kurt like? He's happy to go lucky, willing to take life as it comes. You gotta ride the waves, and the universe will take care of you, you know. Can't fight what's fated to be, but you can bend the rules if you're smart. Kurt seems like shamans that are like that, like me. Like most shamans, I felt this call when I was a teenager. I'd been running with a local gang, trying to scrape together enough money not to starve. One day we were having a dust-up with the Black Hammers, and I just felt this force. It welled up in me, and the next thing I knew, the knives just bounced off my skin. Things being what they are, I decided making some real money was in order. I ditched the gang and started hiring myself out of whoever offered the most new yen. It's all I've ever done, but I'm good at it. You're not likely to find many better, in fact. Your accent sounds North American. Sure, as born and raised in Federal Way, Seattle Metroplex. Not as bad as the Redmond Barrens, but still a total hellhole. Kinda miss the big grey northwest, but I guess being swamped by monsoons here in the FEZ is pretty similar. Less acid in the rain though. Why did you leave? Things were getting pretty heavy for me. There was a big blowout with the Universal Brotherhood and a lot of bad magic going on. I decided it would be better to lay low out here until things calmed down. I think I might be longer than expected, though cash isn't coming as fast as I'd like. What do you think of Heoi? Frankly, I hate it. The whole city gives me the creeps, big time. Something is seriously wrong with that place, and I don't mean that it's a slum kind of way. Watch your step if you have to go in there. What kind of wrong is it then? There's something off with the walled city's aura. Something in the astral is just six there, but I can't tell what. It's like all that misery and pain is just building on itself. Every misery empowers all the other miseries there. I'd say you couldn't pay me to go in there, but you probably could. I am a sucker for a payday. They'll talk to you later, Illuminati. Keep safe, okay? You know where to find me. Okay, so let's go to the Mahjong Parlor. The last place we still didn't visit. Dr. Shenyang. What area slow? I got nothing else for you until you get the dirt on Ma. Dr. Shenyang makes a shooing gesture with his hands. You got a job? No, go do it. And kindly Chang. No time for runners now. I have other business to attend to. Okay. So the only place to go now is again the MRT. Board train. I think I pick up transit to Kaitak to board a charter bus to the con. Nah, maybe later. Let's go to the whooshing sky tower to commit geomantic sabotage. Yeah. The MTR doors open as you approach. And geomantic sabotage, what will be the best? Slow Illuminati. Too expensive for my taste as the moment. So let's go with the Raptor. Let's pick up Duncan now and go back again. You are about to travel to Washing Sky Tower. Continue. Confirm. So, that was another episode of Old Man Plays Shadowrun Hong Kong Extended Edition, and again in Heoi, talking to all the people around and trying to get some new information about our foster father. Unfortunately, not successful this time, so we got a little bit more about the dreams, or more like omens. But we'll keep that for the next time. Thanks a lot for being here with me again, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you did, feel free to hit that follow button on Twitch and subscribe button on YouTube, and enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon.